I have something a little special planned. And that's because we have hit a very special milestone. We have done over 100 episodes of the journey to Multifamily Millions. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Journey to Multifamily Millions. I'm your host, founder and CEO of Zana Investments. And for today's show, I have something a little special planned. And that's because we have hit a very special milestone. We have done over 100 episodes of the Journey to Multifamily Millions. Now, I don't know much about podcasting, but the stats say that most people don't make it past 7. I was pretty proud of myself when I got to 10, let alone 100. First of all, I want to thank you, everyone who listens to this show, all 5 of you. Seriously though, I put a lot of time and effort into each episode, and it means the world to me to know that someone is getting value from it. And a big shout out to all of those who have taken the time out to leave a rating and review. I know it sounds cliche and maybe I harp on it, but I can't overstate the impact that it has on getting more people to see and listen to the show. And hopefully that's more people that are getting benefit from it, getting to be smarter investors. Of course, I also need to thank all of the amazing guests I've ever had on this show. Some were close friends, and some I would have never had the opportunity to speak with if I didn't have this platform. But regardless of where they were on their real estate investing or professional journey, all were kind enough to take time out of their busy schedules to share their expertise, insights, and perspectives with me. And today, I'd like to do something a little different and take a look back at some of the most popular guests that we've had on the show. And to do that, we're going to listen to their insights from the Turbo Round. That's right, where I ask them questions that uncover the red flags, bust the myths, and get at the why of every guest. Without further ado, thank you so much again for over 100 episodes. Now let's get into it. What is one red flag that every investor should look out for?
A syndicator that has fallen in love with a metro and doesn't acknowledge that every metro is both great, good, okay, bad, and horrible, depending upon the point in the cycle.
What is one red flag every investor should look out for?
I'm going to have to go with an obvious one, which is don't invest with people or groups that don't have any skin in the... Let's say, for example, if I try to sell you a deal and I don't invest in it, how do you expect me to believe in it? Our interest has to be aligned. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't disagree at all. I think it's really important that every active investor have some money in the deal. But I think there's also a tempering of expectations that you have to do with some, especially newer passive investors, to where they think you're going to have an equal amount of money that they do in a deal, right? So it's like if that passive investor puts 100,000 in, they shouldn't necessarily expect every GP to be putting 100,000 in as well, because the problem becomes we can only do so many deals if we're putting a huge amount of money into each deal that we're doing. My cash vault isn't limitless, and you're limited as that active investor as to how much you can put into each deal. Because I hear some folks say, oh, you need to be putting in at least this percentage of your net worth into the deal. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense, because then I'd only be able to do one deal, maybe 2 deals a year. And these deals last 5 to 7 years. That money is locked up. So I think it's both, right? I think every sponsor should absolutely have money into their own deals so that they have that skin in the game. But passive investors need to understand that it may not be the same amount that they have in the deal.
Right.
All right. What is one red flag every investor should look out for?
You really got to do your due diligence on the guys that you're doing deals with. There's a lot of really good guys in this industry. There really is. I'm telling you, the majority of the guys in this industry are out for their investors' best interest. But they also may not know what they don't know. A lot of guys that are new, they just don't know what they don't know. Make sure that the guys you're investing with, or make sure they're being coached by somebody. Make sure they're in masterminds. these are things that that people coming into this business need to spend money on. And I'm telling you, it just gets you light years ahead when you do that. And it's the Ray Kroc theory, the McDonald's thing. Just do everything. And yeah, other people have already failed. Take their lead. Let them show you what not to do and what to do. So just do your due diligence on who you're investing with. Make sure that because they probably do have your best interest at heart. But hey, there was a lot of short-term loans out there as well. We didn't get involved in them. So
Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. All right. What is one red flag every investor should look out for?
I'll think about it from the perspective of passive investor. I think lack of transparency is the number one thing, because you can evaluate as an individual. Humans are smart, right? We're really smart. We sniff out problems very quickly. We sniff out lack of trust. If your issue with a potential sponsor is that you just don't trust them, or you feel they're hiding something, or they're not transparent, just run away. Whatever you think is probably worse than you think. And at least if somebody's 100% upfront, you trust that they're going to be 100% upfront on all the bad things, or at least the vast majority, and paint them in the right light. I just want to know the problems I'm getting into. I invest a lot with a lot of their sponsors. So if somebody's not transparent, I'm out instantly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that comes with the good, the bad, everything. I'm in the military and the Army as well. And one thing that I always brief my people when I have my initial counseling with them is bad news does not get better with time. You need to tell me. The sooner you tell me, one, the better I feel about having known it, but the sooner I can react to. And for investors, they just want to know so they don't think that you're trying to hide something, because that makes it a million times worse.
Absolutely.
All right. What is one red flag that every investor should look out for?
So one red flag, and this is coming from me as being a syndicator. So one thing every investor should ask the GP team when they're thinking to invest is if the GPs are investing their own capital in a deal and how much they're investing. If the GP tells you they're not contributing their own capital, or if it's like an insignificant amount, that's a huge red flag in my opinion. Because when a GP invests alongside investors in their deals, it creates alignment of interest and incentive to make sure the property is performing. Make sure that they have enough skin in the game before you actually invest in their deal. And that way, they're most likely 100% focused on making sure the asset is hitting or even exceeding those target returns. So I guess in turn, the more the GP team invests, the harder they're going to fight for a positive outcome. That's something I would definitely look out for if I was an investor.
Yeah, I agree. Alignment of interest and skin in the game. And I think sponsors just need to be open and honest with how they're doing it, because they may not be able to invest as much as each investor is putting in. Otherwise, they would run out of capital to do their deals. But they should be putting some money in on every deal, not just highlight the work that they're doing as the skin they have in the game. Because again, I think like you alluded to, then there's not that alignment of interest there for the passive investors. All right. What is a myth about this business that you would like to set straight?
That multifamily is great at all points of the cycle. It may be the greatest asset class. It doesn't mean that you should be buying it at all points. That's just Kool-Aid.
Yep. Do your own due diligence. Make sure you know what you're investing in, as should always be the rule. What is a myth about this business that you would like to set straight?
Oh, yeah, the overnight success. Yeah, man, those guys we've been doing this for 3 years and we got 400 million under assets under management. Yeah, they did it for 3 years under this name because they did it for 4 or 5 years under this name. And it just, finally, they partnered up with some other people and figured it all out. There's no overnight success in this business, but my whole thing is that I'm just going to keep clipping along. I'm not going to stop. So I'm going to keep going, and it's just going to continue to roll together. It took me 3 years to do 2 deals, but now we've got a good bit of deals under our hat and over 100 million in assets, and it's not too bad. Life's pretty good.
Yeah, and I think that's a super important point too for those people who are listening to gurus, going to conferences or something, and having someone pitch them a $30,000 course saying that they will be financially free within a year.
Wow.
Okay, calm down. It just doesn't make sense on the face of it, considering how long these deals are. First of all, when you're all hyped up, it's hard to get past that. So people, like you said, need to look at the long game and understand that, yeah, these deals are anywhere, like you said, for 3 to 7 year time horizons. And we as operators, syndicators, that's when we get the biggest chunk, is when we've proven value for our investors, when we sell, exit at the end of the deal and get our chunk of the equity from it. It's not the time in between. It's maybe a little taste at the beginning if we got an acquisition fee, and then the big chunk at the end. So exactly like you said, you have to be building that pipeline and continue to do deals, because one day down the line, all those seeds that you planted in the form of deals will start to come to fruition. And that's when you really start to see the return. What is a myth about this business that you would like to set straight?
Ooh, a myth about the business. I mentioned earlier, I said real estate's a get rich slow business. And if people are like, hey, you can come in and be a multimillionaire in a short period of time, it's certainly possible. But I think if you set a reasonable timeline and have, as I mentioned, my investment thesis, you want something that's going to work over, say, 10 years or even 20 years versus like short and quick. Because if you have a game plan like that's going to work and say, hey, I can be financially independent in 10 years. If it happens in 5, great. If it happens in 7, great. If it happens in 15 years, is that the end of the world? No. But you want a consistent plan. And as I mentioned that, there's one other thing that kind of falls into that. I think that this is more broader, but we talk about how when you're young, you should take risk early. I think that's, excuse my language, I think it's bullshit. I think you need a plan that's predictable when you're early. Because Tim, if I can say when you were 21, if I could pull you aside as 21-year-old Tim and say, Tim, I got a plan for you to be financially independent by the time you were 30. Now, it's not sexy. It's not even that exciting, but it involves real estate, but it's predictable. Now you're 30, you're financially independent. How much risk can you take? As much as you want, right? If you spend 5, 10, 20 years swinging away, trying to hit home runs and striking out, if you're 35 or 40 years old, you got a family, you got student debt, then now you can't take risk because you have to make it happen. Make a predictable plan early, get it to work, schedule that risk into your life later on. And then to me, that's how you can really create massive wealth.
No, I think that's a great myth that I don't think it's been busted on here, that you should take all that risk when you're young. And because you're right, it's about phases in our life. Like when I was young, I didn't have any money to risk. I couldn't jump in big on anything. It wasn't until I had that good income and I was stabilized financially that I was able to take those risks.
Yeah.
Awesome. What is a myth about this business that you would like to set straight?
Okay, I really like this. This is a myth that I've seen over and over consistently. I'm on many hours of investor phone calls a week. It's that being a landlord where you own the properties is hands off. It's passive investing. I think that's by far the biggest myth that's been shoveled to potential investors. Oftentimes when I'm on a call and someone says, I'd rather just buy the property myself. I'm like, you should just save my number. Okay, just save my number. Call me in about a year. Let me know how it's going. I'm rooting for you. I genuinely want you to win. But when you're high income, our community is a lot of really successful people with very little time. So you have not enough time on your plate to manage this how you would like to and get the returns that you'd like. So just keep in touch, because we could probably do higher returns. And I'm sure you do the same, Tim, but you could perform higher returns for somebody and they do essentially near zero work. Okay? Whereas if they do it on their own, it's tenants of toilets. It's a lot of management. I think that drawing the line between real estate and passive is ownership. If you own the property, it's not passive at all. And I think that's been not clear to investors along the way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, having been in both situations and even self-managed, which I will never do again. Because I think a lot of people just don't realize that they've never been exposed to the opportunity of passive investing. So they can't even compare the two, right? They've just always been told, like you said, hey, buy properties, hire a property manager who will take anywhere between 6 and 10% right off the top. And then But once you start adding in, everything that goes wrong, that profit really starts to dwindle in addition to the time that you're spending managing the manager.
Absolutely.
What is a myth about this business that you would like to set straight?
I think one of the most common myths is, at least especially lately, and this kind of goes for all asset classes in general throughout investing in whether it's stocks, bonds, or real estate, is waiting for a perfect time to buy. So a lot of people tend to invest in real estate when a market's thriving, but when things slow down, they perceive it as dangerous to get into, or maybe they're skeptical about it. But I actually disagree with this and think that there can be great deals found at pretty much any point in the market cycle, as long as you're sticking to your fundamentals and making the right decisions. So that's what it comes down to, is sticking to your fundamentals and not forcing a deal, because when people do that, they tend to get into trouble. So like I mentioned before, I was underwriting 50 to 75 deals every few weeks. And when people do that, they tend to become impatient and begin to tweak their assumptions and try to make one work just to get one under contract. But as an investor, when you have the finances and are ready to invest, I'd say don't wait for the perfect time. If you could time the market already, you'd be rich, right? You should be out there looking and starting to look for what you want. Find a trusted operator, and if you're going to invest in the passive route, and ask the tough questions to better understand the ins and outs of the investment as a whole. So from how we arrived at the projected returns, if the property has been stress tested, pretty much all the tough questions. Make sure the investor, the GP team knows what they're doing and knows how their business plan is going to make it possible to hit those returns, regardless of where the market is currently, because there are good deals in really any market cycle.
Yeah, I really want to put stop one, that if you think you can time the market, you're wrong. And two, sticking to whatever your fundamentals are, because the moment you stray from those is usually the time when you find yourself in trouble, right? Because you broke your own rules. What does success look like to you?
Having my mind at peace. More than anything else, having my mind at peace is success for me. I think that most people who are rich have their mind less at peace than when they were working a day job. And they may not like that day job, and they might like what they're doing now. But if they lost their peace, then what did they gain?
Yeah, I think that's so true. And it's based on evidence, right? There's so much statistical evidence that shows that even people who are considered wealthy aren't necessarily happier. That has to come from somewhere else. All right. What does success look like to you?
Being the best husband and dad I can be, really and truly. And that's in my personal life. I help coach the baseball team. I sit there for my daughter's 2-hour gymnastics practices. It's just being there for them, doing things with them, man. I heard somebody say it's not quality, it's quantity. Because you may be doing something you think is super cool with your kids, and then when they grow up, do they remember it? They remember what they want to remember. So they might remember the little things, when you went out and picked freaking blueberries with them. I don't want to pick blueberries, but it's just something that you're going to spend time with your kids, just sitting there. Like me, I remember most about my dad is that him being there at my football practices at high school. And he worked. He ran a big company that took a lot of his time away from his family. But yeah, he would still make sure that twice a week, he was sitting there at 4 o'clock watching me practice football. I remember looking up in the stands being like, that's awesome. He's supposed to be at work right now. That's incredible. Or he could be playing golf. He's an amazing golfer. But yeah, he could be playing golf. But he's sitting here watching me practice football. So it's quantity time over quality time. And yeah, that, and I also want to help out as many people as I can grow their wealth. I really do. I see what this business can do for people. And we're whipping the pants off of financial advisors out there. Mm-hmm. And it seriously angers me. And I go hunting with a bunch of financial advisors once a year out in Arkansas. I love them to death. They're all Ed Jones guys. They're great dudes, and we don't have to bring it up much. But as soon as one of them starts talking about their returns they're getting their guys, man, I can shut them down pretty quick. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, and I can't agree with you more on the quality, quantity, time. It's all a matter of perspective, right? We may think that vacation to Disney or whatever is going to be that memory that's seared into their mind for the rest of their lives, when really it's when you hold their hand walking them to school or something.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yep. I went to Disney World. I don't hardly ever remember.
Yeah.
But I remember throwing baseball with my dad up in the big field just past our house. You know, I remember that like it was yesterday.
Yeah. No, that's huge. I have 2 daughters too, 5 and 8. So it's a fun time.
Man,
Certainly
life is good, brother.
We'll see how fun it is when I have 2 teenage daughters at the same time, but you'll be in the same boat.
Yeah. Don't even think about that. Just live in the now, man. Live in the now.
What does success look like to you?
This is a good one. So this is like the why. Why do we work all these freaking hours? Why do we put in such hard work? What do we want to give our investors opportunities for? So I think about this a lot. I'm a really big why guy. I don't want to do something unless I see the reason for that very clearly and strategically. For me, it's 3 things. It's health, wealth, and legacy. That's success, period. If I'm not healthy, I can't give to my family. I can't be a good dad. That includes spiritually, physically, mentally. Wealth. So health, wealth on that side, it's freedom, right? It's freedom. It's being able to give my family and my children the opportunities to be whatever they want, but they must be the best in the world at it, right? So if they're going to compete, that you give them the best advantages possible where they can work their butts off and be world class. And also the ability from wealth to give legacy, not just to your children and opportunities that way, but to give to causes, make the world a better place as you see it. For me, I have a lot of health causes and other causes. Entrepreneurship's a very passionate thing for me, to learn people how to make themselves more money and to be able to create that freedom for themselves. So it's health, wealth, and legacy, and it's maximizing those 3. Every single second of my day is going to one of those.
What does success look like to you?
I have a very simple definition of success. So success to me is just simply the achievement of a set goal. Obviously, there's many different types of goals, but for me, my main ones I want to achieve have to do with health, my time, my wealth, my mind, and my relationships. So essentially, I look to optimize all those things and have short-term milestones that lead to long-term visions for each. But really overall, I think just setting those goals, hitting those milestones, setting an action plan in place, and having those small wins along the way is crucial for consistent improvement in all those areas.
Yeah, love it. Because when it comes right down to it, if we don't set any goals for ourselves, there's not that feeling of accomplishment, right? And people don't feel like they've really had success if they haven't accomplished anything. They just float through life.
Yep.
So having those goals is so important. What does success look like to you?
I'm gonna have to use one of the quotes out there, which I'm pretty sure everybody have seen it. Success is in the journey and not the destination. I think I first heard this quote actually come from the great Kobe Bryant, which I'm a Lakers fan, and I read with it because no matter how tough the road gets, I thrive on these challenges, and by overcoming these obstacles, I feel a sense of fulfillment and growth. And I think that's really the rewarding part for me.